Why are you laughing?
I like your game face.
Yeah, it's exciting. This is a real privilege to be able to speak to everyone who's running for office on behalf of Schneps Media and PoliticsNY. I'm Sky. A lot of you know me. I've been doing the 3 questions in 3-minute interviews, and I've had Dao and Sandra and John on my show. And Ellen, I haven't met you yet, but you're invited on the show. Everyone's invited this week if you haven't done your 3 questions in 3 minutes to do that with me. But we will just jump in, and I see that there are some attendees who are joining us as well. So we do have a live audience. And if anyone needs to be promoted to a panelist because they've logged in incorrectly, that's no problem. We will promote you to a panelist if you are a candidate. So with that, let's just get started. Welcome to the District 20 debate/discussion forum. Yes, Steve, we are recording.
Okay.
This is being recorded.
Right.
And you can find all of our recorded discussions on PoliticsNY.com. We have a debate page, politicsny.com/debates. So welcome to PoliticsNY with Sky, and that's Steve Witt. He's our editor-in-chief for the whole Schneps brand of media. We are the only media outlet providing a platform for every single New York City Council candidate to have their voice heard and faces and personalities shown. District 20, Queens, it's nice to meet you, to have you here. Like I said, if you're familiar with my 3 questions in 3 minutes, if you haven't done that, please, let's make a time to do it. But I've had some of you on my show. It's a really great way to get to know the candidates for their personalities in a candid way. So tonight's debate will be a discussion. It'll be fast and fun. We like to keep it engaging, and that it makes it more interesting than a lot of the forums that a lot of the candidates have done. So please keep your responses short and sweet, so that way we can facilitate a little bit of conversation. We just hate cutting people off, but try and be mindful because we only have an hour together. So again, that's Steve Witt you see on the screen. He is the political editor-in-chief of Schneps Media and PoliticsNY. So this fun and fast forum is being recorded. You can see it on politicsny.com along with all of our debates. And again, welcome District 20. This is Peter Koo's seat. He is term limited in the City Council. And the neighborhoods for District 20 are downtown Flushing, Murray Hill, and Queensboro Hill. So let's begin going in alphabetical order. Last name first. So, I see Hailing is there. I think that means you're first, Hailing. And I see that you fixed your camera. You're not blue this time, because the last time we spoke, Hailing was blue. So let's begin just going in order with a brief introduction, 1 minute or less, of just a little bit about yourself and why you are running for New York City Council District 20.
And we're starting with who?
Yeah,
Hailing.
hi everyone. My name is Hailing. I came to this country 14 years ago. As a teenager, I go to school in Flushing. I graduate college in Queens, and and later I become the Uber drivers. I started organizing with my fellow driver to fight for fair pay. We want the minimum pay for New York cities. All Uber driver, all app-based drivers. I also was a board member of Drivers Benefit, where we were able to successfully push a legislation on the state level to give the free benefit to all app-based drivers in New York State. I'm running because I believe that we can do better as a government to really cares about what the working peoples and the struggling people all across New York. And we are experiencing the struggle every single day. And this is a time for the new leadership to step in and really help New York City to get out of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Hailing. Now, John Choe, are you there? John, I see his name on the screen,
Yeah,
but we'll skip him over. I guess we'll skip
I think
him for
he's
now.
got to mute himself.
John. We'll skip him for now. And I guess that Sandra is up next. Sandra Ung.
Hi, so I say, as long as you know the other Sandra is from my team, you don't have to put him or her part of the panel. It's just someone from my team member. So in case people wonder why there's 2 Sandra Ungs on the screen. So hi, everybody.
Change role to attendee.
Thank you.
There you go.
So hi, everybody. My name is Sandra Ung, but about myself, my family and I escaped the genocide in Cambodia. I made it to United States when I was 7 and to Flushing, Queens when I was 10, the district I'm running in now. I attended all the public schools in Flushing, Queens, and I graduated from Hunter College and eventually Columbia Law School. After law school, I helped victims of domestic violence get their orders of protection and then their immigration status. And for the last 15 years, I've worked with 2 previous controllers and currently the Congresswoman to help the constituents, this district, to access the government benefits that they deserve. I plan to use my legal experience and my government experience to continue to advocate for this community, something I've done my whole life, from advocating to my parents, advocating for victims of domestic violence where they can speak themselves, and will continue, if elected, to advocate this community to make sure our voices are heard and we get our fair funding in this district. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I believe now Dao Yin is next.
Hi, this is Dao Yin. I was born in China. I was educated in China. I earned my first bachelor's degree in a university in China. I lived in China until my 25 years old. Then I moved to Japan. I earned my second degree in university in Japan. My major was political science. I worked in Japan until I came to the United States in 1998. Again, I earned my master's degree in CUNY Blue College, the business school. I worked as a corporate controller for 2 Fortune global companies, the U.S. subsidiary. I was a former executive general manager of a robotics company. I'm not a politician, but I'm a community activist for 2 decades now. My hallmark issues are always public safety, affordable housing, inclusive jobs for especially young graduates, and also consider of not only this District 20, but also the borough, the city as a whole. To bring people together is my role. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Thank you. I know John Choe just messaged me that his Zoom isn't working. So let's see if we can get him online with his phone or something. Ellen Young, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we don't see you.
Now, well, I've been waiting. It says join and turn the video on, but
Yes.
I've been waiting. It's circling, it says waiting.
Okay.
As long as you can hear me,
Yeah, we can hear
I
you.
think, oh, great, great. So may
We
I
can hear
start
you.
now?
Yes, of course. You know, we'd love to see your face, but I understand there's a difficulty. So we'll hope that it works. But yes, you may begin.
Well, I can see myself. I hope you can see my face too. Anyways, good evening, everyone. Thanks, many thanks for PoliticsNY Fast and Fun, sponsored by Schneps. Okay, it says you want me. Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah,
You want me
yeah,
to turn
I
it
can see
on?
you.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. Okay, my name is Ellen Yang, and I'm running for City Council as an experienced legislator. I'm the former assembly member for our district, where I was the first Asian American woman elected to the New York State Legislature. I believe that our representatives must prioritize results over talking points. During my first term, I passed 5 major bills and secured a massive increase in funding for our district, while the overall state budget was being cut. I hope to bring that same kind of leadership to City Hall. I'm also the first female Asian American NYPD auxiliary police officer in Queens, and current small business owner. I want to continue serving the needs of our seniors and working and middle-class families who call Queens home, because now, more than ever, I believe we need leaders who are ready to serve on day one. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. And again, John Choe, if you're there, I know if your computer isn't working, we'd love for you to join on your phone. And again, to reiterate, we've invited every single candidate who's on the ballot to be a part of this forum because we believe everyone has a voice. It doesn't matter how much money you've raised or if you qualify for matching funds. As long as you're on the ballot, you're invited to have your voice and face seen. So thank you. Now let's go in the same order. I know everyone mentioned a lot of different issues, but if you could pick one issue that you want to focus on as the number one issue affecting District 20 and what you would do about it, let's go around and talk about that one issue. Hailing, you're first.
I think there are lots of top priority. It's just that we have a large issue that's in the community that need to be fixed. I would say sanitation is a big issue now. When I talk to a lot of the voters, they were mentioning that they are charged all over the places, the noise issues and just the bad odor. So I think having a great environment, having a green environment and having a clean environment is a basic human rights. And our government should definitely invest in our clean energy, in our cleanliness of our neighborhood. And it's such an important issue, surrounding the quality of life. And that is one thing that I think definitely need to be fixed. And we have the money to fix in the richest city, in the richest country in the world. And there's no excuse why we shouldn't get this done. We need to get this done on the day one, the very next day, to make sure the Flushing is a place for, a livable place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra, your thoughts on the number one issue impacting District 20?
We need to make sure everyone really recovers from this pandemic, this COVID crisis, and that could stem from just a couple, from small businesses. Small businesses are suffering. We need to find ways to help them. To having proper care for our seniors. I think this whole pandemic showed us how the seniors were really left out of the process, from the closing of daycares, the senior centers, to the fact that they weren't able to access the vaccination shots when they first came out, because somehow the government believed that people, senior people actually get online and get these vaccine shots so quickly. To finding, we need to have also a job recovery, right? We need to find jobs and help our young people secure the jobs that and get the skill set they do need to get the jobs in the future. I see that actually John has joined us.
See if this is going to work. John, are you there now? Let's see if his camera kicks on. In the meanwhile, thank you, Sandra. Let's hear from Dao about the number one issue.
Yesterday early morning, I said to my wife, happy Mother's Day. Mothers, fathers, and the children's, we are so concerned of the increased hate crime, especially Asian hate crimes. I know that we cannot afford to defund our police department, not while we are terrified about the continued escalated rate of violent crimes and the surging hate crimes. If the city cannot stop shootings in most policed neighborhoods, what does that say about what's happening in our community of color? With the beginning of a city finally opening and understand that in order for us to get back on track, we must keep our streets and subways safe. Our entire road to the recovery only works with the emphasis of public safety. My first priority, public safety. We need the police to be our partners. We also need our outgoing elected officials and their enablers to stop investing and over-legislating our communities into believing there is a fourth choice between keep our communities safe and redeveloping the police department. That fact is one cannot evolving without the other. We need to restore the trust and hope back to the residents of our communities and always remember that hope commences with public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that we want to dive more into that topic with the Asian hate crimes and public safety, but let's first hear from Ellen about what you believe to be the #1 priority in District 20.
This is such a cruelty, made me make a decision for the top priority. I think all issues are important. However, if we don't have public safety, none of these will be achieved. I like to talk about education, small business, or senior citizens. But I would say public safety is my priority. Well, last year we saw the most homicides in New York streets in a decade, and crime is running rampant in our streets. As the first Asian American auxiliary NYPD officer in Queens, female, I understand that a government that doesn't set up to protect its citizens is failing them at the most basic level. So it's very important to make our streets safer by creating hate crime focused units and strengthen subway patrols. And we need to give the NYPD the resources it needs to institute comprehensive community-based policing programs and invest in mental health support services, as well as programs to support at-risk youth in embracing their potential. Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of the issues bleed into each other. So it is difficult to pinpoint one issue like you mentioned. So thank you, candidates, for focusing on that. And I see that John got his computer working. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi.
All
So why
right.
don't you give us a little intro about yourself, John, and then we'll go into the first question for you, which is talking about the #1 issue for you in the community.
Some people say that the 7 train is the end of the line, but I say that Flushing is the beginning. It's where generations of immigrants and escaped slaves have settled down to reach the American dream. Right now, that dream is not working for everyone, and so we need to make sure that we have strong visionary leadership that is actually out there fighting for affordable housing, good schools, and jobs for everyone in the community. My name is Choe. I am a candidate for City Council. I have 20 years of experience working with John Liu as his chief of staff. We were able to establish the first language access law in New York. I also, as the executive director of the Greater Flushing Chamber of Commerce, was able to secure millions of dollars to help the small businesses in Flushing, and was able to work as an advocate to make sure that we have safer streets, including bicycle lanes and other sidewalk improvements for the pedestrians in Flushing. We need to make sure that the essential workers have safe, reliable transit, and that's my commitment as the next council member of District 20.
Thank you. I know, Steve, did you want to dive into, I know I typically like to keep it light and fun, but Steve likes to get in the weeds with very intense policy conversation. So Steve, go ahead.
No, I'll start with, I guess, the SAT question. Firstly, I'd like to know whether you believe that that test should remain to get into specialized high schools. And do you have any policy ideas to increase more Black and brown representation in those schools, if you do, and maybe create more specialized high schools? But I'd like to hear your opinions on the test and how there could be more diversity.
You want to go in the same order? Let's keep that,
Yes.
if that works, with Hailing first.
That's a very good question. I think keeping a SAT is a very important process for the kids to achieve academically, go into the dream high school. But I also believe our current system is not working to having a more diverse student admitted to the special high school. So I think the root of the problem is simply we don't have enough quality school in New York City, and that has been an issue. And we have so many talented kids. They have great potential. They have great future in their life, but they just couldn't get the quality, a high quality public schools. And I think, as a councilman, I want to advocate to build more better school and to have other talent criteria for kids to enter those school, so we have more diversity. I believe that we are a community of everyone coming together. It's the same thing that's true for the kids. When they have more diverse classmates, when they see the differences that among their classmates, it's a way for them to improve, for a way to learn, for them to learn from each other's cultures. And we a nation of immigrants. I think it's so important to have a the diverse and decent quality education. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move right along if that works for everyone with Sandra next. Sorry, we'll keep John at the end, or that's okay. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Steve, for asking that question. A very important question to our community. So I do support in keeping the SHSAT exam to get into like specialized high schools. But picking back what Hailing just said, it's also very important to invest in our public education system from day one, from the first grade, actually from PK. Sometimes we talk a lot about these three, specialized high schools. I know there's more actually, there's I think 7, but sometimes we talk a lot about these three. And I think we need to really just expand how we talk about it. No kid should really travel an hour and a half, 2 to 3 hours a day to feel like that's where they should, that they need to go there to get a good education. Every children deserves to get a good education from their public schools from day one. It's something I'm very proud of, that I felt I got a really good education from going to all the public schools in my district. But also to answer your question, Steve, in terms of increasing diversity, and we actually should think about how to increase diversity in these schools. We could think about increasing the free prep classes, and just instead of an opt-in option for these exams, you should just think about opt-out option for taking exams, and the test should be done in weekdays and during the school day. Thank you.
Everyone's so polite. You always say thank you at the end of your speaking. Thank you, the candidates. Who's next now? Dao, your thoughts on this issue?
Yes, I have been fighting for keeping SHSD for almost 3 years for reasons. One-time examination never be perfect, but it's much better than scandal. I think we still need to keep SHST and the GNT, but I do have a proposal to New York State Education Committee as well as the DOE like 2 years ago. I suggest that we need more specialized high school. Let's say my 2 children, they graduated from Stuyvesant. Why not Stuyvesant has a Queens branch, Brown Science can change the name, like New York City Science School, they have a branch in other boroughs. We need more specialized high school. The first, we need to consider the very unbalanced New York City public school system, the largest international, but totally not satisfied systems. Secondly, I suggest with my proposal, we need to increase the majors of the specialized, the high school make it really special. Not only the science and the social study, it's out of the time now. We need to create sports science, robotics, AI, even plumbers, because plumbers need a degree now, associate degree. Agree with me on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen.
Oh, yes, please. Well, education is the basic, most important in our culture. I was born and raised in Taiwan, in Asia. And we have Confucius as the father of teachers. We celebrate Teachers' Day every year with ceremony and ancient clothing. And we must ensure our classrooms are fully funded and have the technology resources they need to educate our kids. We need to reduce the classroom size and lower the student to teacher ratio and expand the gifted and talented programs so more students are given the opportunity to realize their academic potential. That leads to the specialized high school we're talking about, retain the specialized high school. It's called SHSAT, SHSAT, and increase preparatory resources so all of our students can remain competitive. And we need to advocate for the billions of dollars that New York State still owes our city's public schools. Now, let's look at these 8 specialized high schools. Oh, by the way, my daughter went to Brooklyn Tech. Why are all the parents and students looking at only Stuyvesant, Brooklyn Tech, and Bronx Science? What happened to the other 5 schools? All the taxpayers, lawmakers, parents, and students should really pay attention and make sure that the goal should be that all the kids and parents will be crazily dying to go to these 5 other schools. That will help to ease the issue, the arguments. Thank you.
Thank you. And John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Got it. So thank you so much. We do need to reconfigure the diagnostic methodology for allowing students into these specialized programs. It's based on a faulty SAT that no college in the United States really uses anymore as a single way of determining who gets into those colleges. Why should we be using the same type of methodology for our high school students? The diagnostic exam needs to be fixed and needs to be taken earlier, and it should be mandatory for all students at a much younger age, because we're talking about people who students who may not actually fit into the general student population, and they need to be identified much earlier and given assistance at a much earlier age. In addition, we need to build more of these specialized schools. I am committed as the candidate for City Council in Flushing to build one here, because so many of the students who go to Stuyvesant and Bronx Science and Brooklyn Tech actually come from Stuyvesant, Flushing. But one of the things that we need to do is actually not just focus on the 1% of the student population that goes to these schools, but what happens to the 99% of the students who don't go to these schools. I actually got into some of these schools when I was in high school here in New York, but I decided not to go. And I actually went to a great school, Wagner High School, was in the honors program and did very well, got into the college that I wanted. We need to make sure that we provide the resources for all the students in New York to gain the opportunities they need and the resources they need to succeed. And so I've actually worked with the Council for School Supervisors, Administrators, and Senator Robert Jackson, who was the champion of the campaign for fiscal equity, to actually fund more schools in New York City and make sure that the students here actually get the funds that they're owed. And to make sure that when those funds do arrive, that they're allocated and actually used to build science labs and computer labs and all the things that they need. And those are actually things that I've done when I was chief of staff for John Liu. We funded every single public school in District 20. And that's something I'm committed to doing to make sure that they have the resources they need to succeed.
Speaking of the budget, may I, Sky?
Please.
Speaking of the budget, the Mayor de Blasio's proposed budget was $98.6 billion, which is more than the entire state of Florida. And New York, if you look at all the United States, has, I think, the highest budget per capita. The state budget was $212 billion. If you count the 98 was passed, we're moving upward to $1/3 trillion for the state. I'm wondering, as a city council member, do you think that will you watch closely the budget? Do you think that $98.6 billion might be too much, and would you cut it? How would you? It's one thing to have the money, but it seems like a pretty excessive budget. We got federal money, and I'm wondering what you think of that budget. As city council members, you have to approve and go through the budget. So I'd like you to comment on that $98.6 billion. Do you think it's bloated? Do you think it can be cut or not? And if so, where?
Okay, Healing.
I think, I mean, the problem is the $98 billion dollars budget that we have. It's not, I don't think we need to cut them, as we need to keep it. The question is, once we keep it, how are we going to efficiently manage the funding we have? It's about saving the money that's not necessarily spent, and make sure that we do not overspend. We spend a lot of money on the defect sidewalk. We are causing a pedestrian injury. The city pay out multi-million dollar settlements, and those money could have go to the working families, to feed the kids, to put the food on the table, to making sure we have a safe, the sidewalk. It's about the proper management, because we do not repair the road, because we do not take care of the small thing, and it becomes a big burden for the city of New York. And ultimately, who's paying those checks? Who is responsible for paying all those bills?
Well, just going back to what you said, excuse me, but originally you said one of the biggest problems you saw was sanitation. You would think with $98.6 billion, you could keep the streets clean. I mean,
it's a two different thing, Steve. It's a two different thing. So this time I'm talking about the defect and of our road.
Right.
So previously I talked about the sanitation. So there are a lot of people get injured. A lot of bicyclists get injured because our road is not repaired. It's not fixed. So that's what I experience every single day as Uber driver organizers. I'm on the road every single day. I'm going to different community every single day. I'm actually witnessing people starving, in many of our neighborhood, because we go there every single day. So I think it's the proper management. And as a councilman, I am young, but I am very experienced. I am a treasurer of a New American Voter Association. I'm also a treasurer of Driver's Benefit, where we have multi-million dollars budgets every single year. I think, we need to have someone to take a deep look into the numbers and make sure we do not waste our money, for the useless reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandra.
So Steve, to your question, a lot of our spending has make up for resources that we're not getting from the federal or for the state government. I'm the personal experience and working with all the levels of government, city and state and federal, to make sure we get our fair resources from those governments. And moreover, we as New York City, they give out more than we receive. Right now, we just recovering from COVID, and we do need the city's help to recover from the COVID, whether that's in helping our small business recover, or whether that's in helping our hospitals and healthcare workers that are underpaid. Thank you. I know I keep on saying thank you. I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop, Scott.
This is the most polite group. I like it.
I like it
no one's cutting each other off, and everyone says thank you at the end.
I like it.
Dao.
Yes. In terms of budget, I'm a numbers guy through my career for more than 2 decades. As I say, I always a corporate controller. My first duty in middle-sized or big corporation is always budgeting. The budgeting is the critical thing for the corporations, for the city, for the state, for the United States government as well. We do need 98.6 billion budget to run this city, keep it at the top. I still think it's the leading city in the world. I still think the United States is the leading country in the world. But how do we use the money wisely? And now I suggest we increase the defunded NYPD budgeting because you see, increase the hate crimes. We need more, at least 2,000 MTA officers. You know, as the 2 mayoral candidates, I don't need to mention name to have the same opinion now. And also we need more budgeting to enhance our public health system, which is kind of far from satisfied because of COVID-19. The hospitals, we consider, a part of the area in Great Flushing, they don't have a hospital, and we also need to improve our transportations. That's why I agreed with the air train to the LaGuardia Airport can mitigate the traffic. Everything needs money, but how do we use money wisely? Maybe I can try comptroller position, but that's in the future. Thank you.
Alan.
Yes, I'm glad I initiate the way to say thank you. That means, well, it's end of my speech. You may go ahead. Okay, I don't think we should cut, but we need to be efficient about how we're spending. And we must eliminate wasteful spending. We just got a lot of money from the federal government to help with COVID spending. The priorities of the budget are right, but we need to make sure that money is being efficiently managed and we're not wasting money. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, your thoughts?
Yes, I agree that city government is bloated, and I'll give you some very specific examples of where I would cut funding. There's no reason why we should be sending NYPD officers to Paris or around the world. We're spending millions of dollars on some type of international anti-terrorism surveillance program that is duplicative of what the federal government already does. We have an amazing FBI. We have other agencies that already do this. Why are we spending millions of dollars? Why are we spending $300 million a year on police misconduct cases? The NYPD, instead of asking the general taxpayers to pay for it, it should come from their direct budget. So I would incorporate the misconduct cases and the amount of money that we pay into the NYPD budget so it's fully accounted for. I would also start to dismantle the New York City Economic Development Corporation. It is one of the worst agencies that we have. It spends billions of dollars on unaccounted, non-transparent deals with corporations like Amazon, spending our taxpayer money to subsidize and provide corporate welfare for companies that don't need that money, don't provide the jobs that they promise. And ultimately, we don't know if any of these subsidies are actually providing a bang for the buck for New York taxpayers. So I would really look into EDC and other agencies like the NYPD and see where the bloat is and cut that bloat.
Maybe we should dive more into NYPD now that we're talking about it and, keeping these Asian hate crimes in mind that impact the community, and maybe have more of a discussion about what you think should be done with the police, specifically when it comes to the Asian community in light of everything we've been seeing. And maybe we'll have it as a little bit of a discussion if you are open to that, everyone. Who wants to go first?
No, it's my priority, so it's my top
Tell us.
priority. So yes. So go ahead, my
Yes.
fellow candidates.
Okay,
Well,
I'll just jump into a little bit about the hate crime since there's a couple of things, look, I work with victims of, domestic violence, and no one should live in fear of, violence or the threat of violence. And this is what's been happening to our community, Asian American community, but we're not the first community that certainly has suffered from hate crimes. I think there's something like we could work with other communities, learn and, we'll be stronger when we're together. A couple of approaches I have is one, education. It is very important to educate, all young individuals about the contributions that Asian Americans have made to this society. And moreover, I think we should be starting to teach like anti-bullying, anti-harassment classes to young kids when they're young age. We should also invest in multilingual hotlines for people to be able to report hate crimes when it happens. And lastly, I hope to work with, other legislatures to change how hate crimes has been defined. It is very hard in my community. I'll say this. I have so many people that, that come up to me and go, Sandra, why is this not considered a hate crime? It's created a lot of fear and confusion in the community, why something isn't changed as a hate crime. So the part of it is, I think we have to look at how is the hate crime statute, written? It's really hard for when you're a victim of a hate crime and you don't know the language to report to the police what was said to you, which is actually a huge evidence in how something can be changed in hate crime. How can you report to the police what has happened to you if you don't know the language? And certainly when it happens in immigrant communities, when people surround you, probably English isn't their first language either. How do you expect to report that to the NYPD? And lastly, I think we honestly need to think about increasing the diversity that's in NYPD, also in our, assistant district attorney's offices. We gotta start increasing diversity there. And lastly, also in our judicial system. I stop saying thank you.
Yeah. All good points. Yes, now feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think first let me mention the API month for this year. Advocated for make this year's API month special because it includes the Asian hate crimes. We cannot allow any hate crimes, happen. So when I was running for Queensboro President, that time we had, defunding police movement. I predicted you will see the increased crimes because in the society, every country, every society, there's always a balance between, the crime and the policing. If you defund police, then you will see increased crimes. If you do the bail reform, then you will see increased crimes. There will be no choice. So I'm not agreed with. I did not agree with John at this point. I still think we need to bring back the NYPD budget to its level. Think about it. 20 years ago, when I was working for a department in New York City, we had 40,000 police officers. How many we have? We only have 34,000 police officers. For me, I want the police officers more can come out of the patrol cars, walk on street, talk to people, have a solid, bad relationship between the police and the community. We can do a better job. Thank you.
Anyone else want to chime in on this topic?
Yeah, I will say something about the policing in New York City. I think fundamentally there's a mistrust between our communities and the community across New York about the police, and the funding. It's just a very, it's very important. I think having police around, it is important, but having a quality of a police force is even more important, because we cannot. We're going to support police accountabilities, And if we have a few who has, who is going to, done something bad for the community members, we should condemn their action. We should hold them accountable. And that is so important to have a decent, police force. Police is not a military. It doesn't need to be armed like the soldiers. And that's why I agree with that, what Dao Yin said, to have a police officer come out of the patrol car, talk to the constituents, talk to the voter, talk to the regular people, small businesses, because now we have a fear, if when we go out, and feel that someone might come, attacking us, but a lot of the people in New York also have the fears that police also gonna do some harm to them, and that trust cannot be overnight, and it has to happen with, the effort coming from both member within the community and the NYPD police force. Thank you.
I would also add to what Hailing just said, that yes, community safety is so important right now, especially with the hike in anti-Asian hate crimes. However, just calling for more police officers really reflects a profound lack of imagination. If you think about the role of the police in our society, police are crime fighters. They are not going to solve the racism and the sexism and the problems that really generate a lot of these attacks. I'm looking at Senator John Liu. His remedy is to educate people, make sure that young students in New York actually understand Asian American immigration history, that we also understand Latino immigration history and African Americans and slavery and all the things that have made this country a challenge, both a challenge and also a destination for so many people around the world. We really truly lack an understanding of each other's histories and backgrounds. I think that's really fundamental. What I disagree with are politicians like Congresswoman Grace Meng, who are using this opportunity to call for more police and for a deeper carceral state, even though she knows that African Americans are 3 times more likely to be picked up, detained, arrested, sometimes killed by our police officers. Given the history, just even this past year of police officers killing and murdering George Floyd on our TV screens, I don't see how any responsible candidate for office or politician could call for more police officers when we know that our Black and brown sisters and brothers are going to be detrimentally impacted by police intervention. So I say, don't use our pain of anti-Asian hate crime. I say, not in my name, not in our name.
Interesting thoughts here. Ellen, did you want to add more? I know you said that this is your number 1 priority and you have that role that you have in the community when it comes to the police.
Yeah, when it comes to the police, I think that we just have to work together. We have to listen to each other. People's voice has to be heard. Well, as I mentioned that I'm the first Asian female auxiliary police officer, I actually got to know both sides, even triple sides, the community and the police and the government. It's very important to have early education, to have kids understand the diversities and put themselves in other students' shoes. When the students bring the ideas home, it will make a better family, and better family will make a better society. I expect we overcome this problem soon, because you can imagine I'm an identical victim, potential victim walking in the street. Nowadays, my daughter has been saying, Mommy, don't look forward when you walk. You have to look backward to see who's behind you, who's going to attack you when you're in the subway, in the street, in the supermarket, even parking lot. So we do need police to do their job. There are some bad apples sometimes, rotten apple. We just have to work together. I suggest that we have more debates on this issue later in the future.
Mhm.
You know, I just wanted to mention something that I've been thinking about lately. Taking away the very serious crime of racism and anti-Asian hate crimes, there's been a series of shootings in Times Square. And as we recover from the pandemic, we have, tourism is a very important economic driver to New York City. And I'm wondering if you think, like, regardless of what you think, whether you like the police or not, do you think in areas like Times Square and where tourists go, the importance of, besides anti-Asian crime, the homicides are increasing, shootings are increasing. I don't know what I'm getting at. I feel like I'm preaching a little bit. I'm wondering what you think. Should areas like Times Square be reimagined, or should there just be more cops down there? Like tourist hubs.
And it's gonna be-
Definitely, I agree.
Mhm.
I know it's kind of a yes, no kind of preachy thing, but no, I'm concerned when you had, 3 or 4 people shot and beat up in Times Square. It doesn't, tell tourists like there's a good place to go to,
Yes, Dao.
Okay, as everybody knows, New York City among the world is the most visited place in the world. Tourism is our industry with generated revenues. We welcome all the people from the world, but days ago, a shooting happened in Times Square, unfortunately. And this is not the first time the terrorism, something happened in Times Square. We think we do need to think about to prevent this kind of incident happening from the future. NYPD with our government, we have a funding. We have nowadays we have AI. We can prevent it with the detectors. We can enhance the security in the center of the New York City for the tourism. We need to do something on that. We cannot let's just if there's a bomb in the subway in Spain, there's another incident in London, then you will see the next day we have NYPD offices with shotguns. But what happened in our place? What happened in our subway? We need to think about it. We need to prevent the very tragedy happening, in the future. Not to mention their move, the school safety agent out of NYPD to the not so successful DOE. That's why I was strongly against it. Why people forgot December 14, 2012, Sandy Hook.
Mhm.
Sandy happened in a very good neighborhood in Connecticut. It will happen in Queens, happen in Brooklyn, in Bronx, in Manhattan as well. So we need to think about something, the public safety. So we do need the budget. We make the city a better place, to welcome people all over the world for the quality of life of people. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, people need to feel safe. It's very important. That's one of the reasons I joined the auxiliary police tenure. We need police officers in the street because we don't want regular people to take the law into their own hands and increase the spread of weapons. We're already seeing tourists arrested for bringing deadly weapons into the city against the law. So it's very important that we all support to have the force to make people feel safer. Thank you.
I'll just add,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, sorry, Sandra, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just adding, back to what Steve was actually saying at the beginning about places like, Times Square, which is a place where, a lot of tourism, a lot of tourists are there. Also, it's very packed, densely packed. So I do think what you said, Steve, to your point that, we should think about maybe having, anti-terrorism like hubs there and try to make sure, as what everyone's saying, to make sure that people who visit, New York City feel safe. They feel safe and confident that, acts of what you just, said a couple, like the shootings and also terrorist attacks wouldn't happen in, at places like Times Square.
Yeah, so in regard of the Times Square shooting, I think it's a general phenomenon. This is not just happening in Times Square, it happened in other places as well. So I think we need to look into what is the root of the problem in our society today. Why is this shooting is happening? Whether it's a social inequalities, whether it's a college kids, when they graduate, they don't have anything to do. They cannot make a living. People don't have the food on the table. Nobody wanting, I would say, most people do not want to be a criminal unless they kind of have to be on the street all the time. Some people stealing stuff in the supermarket because they are hungry. So unless we solve the root of our problems, we cannot solve the crime from keep happening. It's actually important for people to have a ceiling over their heads, to have a food on the tables. And I think we shouldn't look at just one solution, right? But making sure that everyone coming to New York feels safe, especially in a place like Times Square, is so important. And for that, I think we have to create a very harmonious city where, there's just no more homeless people on the street. If you can live comfortably, you wouldn't choose a different path. That's gonna make everyone hate you, right? That's my thought. Thank you.
I'd also like to add to what Helen was saying, that Times Square is probably the most policed part of our city. There's actually 5 police forces there operating. There's actually a police station. I don't know if you guys know that.
Yeah.
We have one of the biggest police forces in the entire world per capita. That did not prevent the shooting this week, right? So calling for more police officers, it may be good politically to say, oh, I'm calling for more police officers, but actually it doesn't solve the problem. I work very closely with NYC and Company, the city's tourism agency. I know how important tourism is to the economy. We want tourists not only to come to Times Square, but also places like Flushing, Queens. I think I agree with what Hailing is saying. When we create safety for all New Yorkers, to make sure that they are housed, that they are fed, that they have opportunities to learn and get good jobs, you will see a reduction in crime. We don't have to keep spending $11 billion in the NYPD budget and $11 billion putting people in jail on Rikers Island or creating new jails in New York City. That doesn't really create safety. It's actually creating a sense of despair. And I think we need to really focus on making sure that when it comes to tourism, that we don't go overboard with violating people's civil rights. I don't know if you guys remember the Central Park 5 case, where there was this hysteria over a white woman who was raped in Central Park, and they falsely arrested 5 African-American men. They spent decades in jail. You had people like Donald Trump saying we should execute them. I don't want that to happen in our city. That's not New York City. I want to live in a city that is just and fair for all.
look, it's a great topic, and I'm so happy to hear all the different perspectives. And I hope that hearing from each of you and your thoughts was helpful to the voters who are watching here, who are making a decision about who to vote for District 20. And there's a lot more to talk about, obviously, but that's the end of our 1 hour together. So I want to thank the candidates for being a part of Schneps Media's PoliticsNY debate/discussion for Council District 20 on behalf of myself, Sky, Schneps Media, PoliticsNY, Steve Witt, our editor-in-chief.
Thank you very much. Much respect to all of you.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for being part of the process. And this was recorded, so you can share this video with your followers and voters and tag us on social media, and we'll tag you back. And our goal here is to amplify all the voices of all the people like yourselves who are running on the hyper-local level. So thank you so much, and good luck, and good night.
Thank you, Sky. Thank you,
you.
Steve.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Sky. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.